cloud is not just a series of technical IT considerations. It goes far beyond this, and in fact, it has clearly become one of the most strategic infrastructure challenges of our time. And in that context, two very large blocks have already emerged. On one side, America, with their army of big tech players and super smart Silicon Valley innovators supported by private capital. And on the other hand, China with a much more state-driven philosophy when it comes to investing in technology. There are many battlegrounds between those two blocks, and cloud technology has already descended, for example, into the military sphere. There's also a very intense race in terms of securing microchip components and semiconductors and dominating the actual internet infrastructure, such as undersea fiber optic cables that are currently being financed by big tech companies, so that 80% of the world data can transit between continents on a daily basis. The battle also has a legal aspect. And in America, for example, the Cloud Act authorizes US agencies to access the data from any individual, any business, whether they're American or not, under the pretense of national security. Now, this can be problematic, of course, for European companies, for example, especially when you know that 65% of the global cloud service market is currently controlled by 3 or 4 very large American corporations. Well, Europe stands in the crossfire. Obviously, they do not necessarily have the scale, they do not necessarily have the technological advancement, but what they want to do is make sure that they can protect their sovereignty over their data. And that is how the Gaia X Initiative came to life 2 years ago under the leadership of France and Germany. Gaia X is a non-profit organization of experts that are trying to build a federated, distributed, decentralized data ecosystem based on trust, transparency, and European values for the purpose of handling, managing, analyzing data. It is not a new European hyperscale technology. Instead, it is an architecture of standards. It is a platform where everyone is welcome, as long as they can embrace a key set of rules defined by the organization. And among these rules, you can find things like openness and transparency, for example, which involves using an open source approach for coding so that everybody can look into your code and know what's going on inside it. It also involves concept of trust, which means that every participant on the network, every node has to be vetted, has to be identified at all times, and has to be seen as complying with the rules of the ecosystem. Another key rule is interoperability and portability, and this is to avoid the typical vendor lock-in situations where a customer wants to switch providers, but you just cannot do it because technologies don't talk together and don't work together seamlessly. And finally, the concept of sovereignty over data is very important, because only when corporates are comfortable with the fact that they have full control over their data can they start sharing more data with everybody for the benefit of all. So the end goal of Gaia X is to create a number of data spaces, typically organized by industry, and to make sure that data flows freely between the various players, and that advanced data analytics services driven by artificial intelligence or machine learning starts creating value and create growth in the region over the coming years. We think so. we already have our champions in Europe. A company like OVH Cloud probably has 1% global market share, and we were very interested to see them partner in January with cybersecurity firm Atos, for example, creating the first truly European cloud service provider focusing on cybersecurity and sovereignty. We believe such model will be very appealing to a number of smaller businesses in Europe. And we believe as well that they will find resonance with a number of local administrations that are also going through their own digitalization processes. And lastly, we believe the model is highly exportable because many countries around the world will be interested to join this kind of cloud environment.